Hey everybody, welcome back to Something to Complain About. This is A. I'm here with T. T, how's it going?
It's going well. We are on episode 20.
Did you ever think we'd get this far?
No, I didn't. And it's 4 handfuls now. We have 4
It is
handfuls of
for
episodes.
full hand. Where did we get this saying?
Yeah, I said it once. I think like episode 8.
Oh, this isn't something like your grandfather used to say to you or you heard on the
No,
radio.
this is
Okay.
handful.
Yeah, I know what the handful. Yeah, okay. We shall keep it PG for our audience and not go down the rabbit hole of handfuls. So I'm
I
sure
I
everybody has
think
already figured out what we're talking about, and that's perfectly fine.
they already know. And if they have a sense of humor like we do, they're laughing.
Honestly, we need to meet more people who have senses of humor like we do. I think it would be more fun.
Well, I think it'd be kind of scary
Isn't that the
in
fun
a
though?
way. Yeah,
Let's have the
I
fun.
don't know. See, episode 20, like we've kept it together this long. We
You think we can
actually
get to
have,
40?
we might,
We might get
we,
to 40.
we have a very small but loyal following, which is very strange to me that people are actually listening to us and thinking back to, when we started this. And now it's still fun. We're still having fun. We're entertaining a few people. So, 5 people do enjoy our sense of humor and perspective.
Well, that's at least 4 more than I thought might. I don't know. I never know what to expect. I'm sort of
I don't.
flabbergasted that what is it? Mighty, his friend R that you met at our wedding. She likes to say my flabbers have been gasted, and that's pretty much where I'm at with this. Like that people are listening. So I'm grateful for that in this time of year.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then, all of these recordings are just out there in the universe now. So this is going to be our legacy more so than anything else.
I'm not sure if we should apologize to the universe for that or if we should just say, fuck you, that's why. Right. Like that might be the best way to proceed.
Yeah, but it's kind of a downer that like my rant on being perimenopausal has ranked more views than my dissertation has. It's always that sinking to the lowest common denominator.
Well, but also like, I mean, an awful lot of people can completely identify with what you're talking about in your rant about being perimenopausal. And a lot of people are like, I don't know what a dissertation would do for me. So, like, I get it. I've read your dissertation.
Yes, you have.
Yes.
Yes.
And I learned a lot of stuff that I definitely did not know before. So, but also, like, we share a nerd gene, and that's just kind of how it goes. So, not everybody wants to do that, but that's okay. We're good. So,
we're good.
Anything fun happening this weekend?
Oh, no. I made soup yesterday. And that's the most exciting thing that has happened this week. I changed it up a little bit. Instead of 2 cans of tomato soup for base, I used chicken broth and then 1 can of tomato soup.
How'd that go?
I can really smell the chicken.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it works. I don't think I'm going to do the 16 bean anywhere.
Why?
Though, the beans don't cook evenly because I bought them in a bag that's pre-mixed, and the beans cook. By the time like a big old lima bean cooks down versus a little black bean,
Yeah,
Yeah. So I had a lot of like, it was kind of pasty.
got
So,
it.
but, it was edible. So, that's the goal of my experimental cooking is gonna eat it, not die of food poisoning or spit it out because I'm so repulsed and I did
Yeah,
not. So,
but and you also get to learn like what works and what doesn't work, and now you can make it two bean or whatever bean, and not have to worry about it being pasty.
yeah, yeah. So far, what seems to work the best is black beans, chickpeas, and lentils. See, and then mix it on my veggies. And the veggies is the fun part because I just grab stuff and throw it in. So,
That works.
yeah.
Cool.
But that's how
Well,
exciting my life is now.
I mean, I cleaned all day yesterday because it was overdue. I can't even tell you how overdue, but it took us almost the entire day to clean the apartment. So, um, mine was not exciting either at all. It's just adulting stuff that just is kind of soul sucking.
So let me ask you this because when I'm cooking and cleaning, I'm always listening to music.
Yeah, I was going to
And
ask you what you
any,
listen to when you cook and clean.
I listen to whatever I'm in the mood for. So sometimes it's Motown, sometimes it's stuff from the 90s, sometimes it's AC/DC. Sometimes we go through and I'll, when I'm making the gourmet cheesy egg for the dogs, we play through their favorite playlist, and which involves Lola from the Kinks, because that's Charlie's favorite song,
Okay.
and Rich Girl by Hall & Oates, because that's Mia's favorite song.
Okay.
And then we play a lot of Van Morrison and Cyndi Lauper because
Your
that's who
favorite
Mia
song.
likes.
Oh, Mia
No,
likes
those
that.
are Mia's. Yeah.
Okay.
Charlie likes, and Charlie, they both like Queen. So, because Mia thinks Rich Girl and Fat Bottom Girls were written for her.
They were.
They were with her bony little 7-pound butt. So, but yeah. And what's funny is I remember like now I just use YouTube and I use it on my phone and I got my playlist and I got, to where my songs just automatically pull up and I just listen to whatever I'm in the mood for. But I remember growing, um, my mom would always put on a record
Yeah.
while we cleaned. And so what a change in technology, right? From
I
like,
mean,
we're going to listen. Yeah.
it's kind of crazy. Like, I know when this will make some sense because when I talk to patients of my own, right, I talk a lot about how Generation X has a very weird sort of nutritional experience, right? Like we're
Mhm.
the first full generation to be all processed, right? We evolved from
Right.
like the position where our parents were either on the farm or they got, homegrown food. They had gardens, they had stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then we were the Fruit Loops, Oreos, Pop Tarts, whatever, fish sticks, whatever you want to talk about, right? Like we had all kinds of processed food. So we've got a very weird evolution of food. And oddly, from a food perspective, it's starting to go. Gen Zers seem to be a little bit more interested in less processed food. But either way, we have a weird evolution of technology and that it's the same sort of reality. We Technology is what allowed us to have the food revolution that we had, right? For good or for bad.
Mhm.
But we also are the generation that has seen this massive span of like music delivery systems, right? Like you're talking about records. My dad had a bunch of records. I had a record player in my room that was
Oh,
part of a
well,
sound system. Like back in high school that had a radio on it and cassette deck on it and a record player on top. And, like this is the kind of thing people today would not have in their rooms because it takes up too much space. But like
Mhm.
I could play records on it. It did not have an 8-track option, but it had the turntable on top
Oh,
and then
yeah.
AM, FM. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, my tea, maybe I finally got him to get rid of it. He had the exact same thing. And I remember my mom did too. I just had the little boom box with the cassette player and then the AM, FM radio.
Yeah.
But we still have, and I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, I still have a record player that's in
Yeah.
a huge cabinet. So, and then I still have quite a few records that I have inherited. None of which I listen to because mom's choice of music sucked in some areas. So, yeah, I mean, the ones that I do listen to, the songs I do listen to, I listen to now off of YouTube.
That's fair. I
But
mean, I think the thing that was interesting, at least then, was we had an 8-track player at home. I remember it. I can still picture it. Was blue. It was a square, and it had this little thing on top that you'd push down to change the track. Do you remember those at all?
yeah,
And it always used to remind me of like when you'd see the cartoons, especially the cartoon with the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote when he'd push the thing down and blow up the dynamite or whatever. It always reminded me of one of
detonator.
those little detonators.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
but my dad used to also have in the little truck that he had for a long time, just an 8-track player that was in the truck. And
yeah.
it was not just there, but when we got to the farm and we'd be in the tractor, right, with my uncle or my grandfather, whoever, there was a radio and an 8-track player. There was not a cassette player in those tractors because they were so old. So they would be listening to there was always country, right? So John Denver
Right.
was on everything all the time. It didn't matter. I used to be, I can't do it anymore. And this will absolutely surprise you because you know me well. But like I could sing some John Denver songs back in the day because I heard them constantly.
Wow. Okay, so let me test you.
No, I will fail because it has been 30 years at least, if not more than
Oh
30 years.
no.
It's more than 30 years because I'm about to be 48, and this would have been when I was younger than 10. But we had the John Denver, but we had the 8-tracks, and then we had the radio constantly, which was my grandfather was always an AM radio guy because he was listening to the Farm Report, the Almanac,
Oh
the
yeah.
Weather Dude, the talk radio people, which back then were, fairly calm.
I want to go back to John Denver for a minute.
Oh,
I will
yes.
pay you $10 if you can sing the first few lines of Take Me Home Country Roads.
I can't. Sorry. I can hear the melody in my head just when you say it. In fact, that was the melody that started playing in my head when you said John Denver, and like I'm like, she's gonna ask me about that song. So, but I don't know the words. I did when I was 8, maybe, but I don't anymore.
What is wrong with your brain?
Many things, most likely, but you know that.
Yeah.
You've known me since 1998. You shouldn't have to ask this question.
I actually had a client who um he would he was intellectually disabled, and he would sometimes start um getting not agitated, but he would start getting fixated on something. And so but he loved country roads. So I would start singing it, and he had enough compulsive behaviors that then he had to finish it. So I don't know how many times it was in a 3-year period. I would sing, and then he'd be happy. He would enjoy the song. So, he would start, and I'd be almost heaven, West Virginia. And then right away, he's like, Blue Ridge Mountains. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And then we'd have to sing the whole song. Yeah. So sometimes we would be in the car going from A to B, and we're all like driving along, and the whole car is singing.
Yeah, so I mean, we had 8 tracks in the car and in the machines. Then we ended up with cassettes, always radios. There's always radios, right, and everything. AM, FM.
Mhm.
We mostly as kids and especially as teenagers listened to FM because it was you could get like
Okay.
normal teenager like regular cultural like pop music, and you wouldn't just be getting the farm
Oh,
report.
but what is so odd when I was thinking about this is we had a local, and it was an AM FM station. And so it had, they still had polka hour
We did
from
too.
11 to noon every day. And then the farm report, the weather, all of that. Paul Harvey, if you
Paul
remember.
Harvey. That was both my grandfathers would
Yeah.
have Paul Harvey on all the time.
And that's the rest of the
The
story.
story.
But we at night, we could pick up like two or three FM stations at night. But like when I was growing up, we had that local AM FM, and then there was no, I take that back. There was another, I think it was FM that just played oldies music. And, oldies to us is 50s, 60s, early. Those are our oldies.
The stuff we used to hear on the
But
Lawrence Welk show.
yes. So that's why, or like early rock and roll,
Yeah.
or early country. That's why my knowledge base of early rock and roll is so broad, because that's what it was either country or that's what we had access to. Late at night, if the skies were clear, we could get some modern music or modern rock stations. But other than that, that's what we had. Yeah.
With the records, 8 tracks, we started getting cassettes. I don't know how old we were when we got cassettes. Started getting cassettes. And then we'd have cassette players also in the car.
Yes.
You used to have to. I saw this on Facebook, gosh, a couple of weeks ago. It was kind of funny. It was one of those, how old you are if you've done things. And one of the things was taking a pencil and rewound your cassette tape because you had pulled the tape out too far.
Yep. The picture of like the pencil and the cassette tape, and it's like, you know what? Yeah.
Do you know what this is for? But like, can't tell you how many times I had to do that. So cassettes were pretty, like, we had those. Then we got Walkmans.
Yeah.
I think we got Walkmans as cassettes, and you'd have this big bulky thing you could carry, put it on your belt or whatever, and play a cassette tape with big batteries in it, and you could listen to it in headphones, all wired, of course, nothing Bluetoothy about any of this. And then I think at some point we got the CDs, right? Like we transitioned into CD options. But like most of what I had until I was well into the last few years of high school was cassette. We had some records, of course. Our former neighbors, he's still a record kind of junkie dude. And there's there's a couple old record stores in our neighborhood. And every time we talk to them, he's like, "Is that place still there?" Like that was one of his favorite places to go get records. And there's a lot of those in the city. We can go find vinyl anywhere we want vinyl, and it's sort of kind of making a comeback in some ways.
The sound on vinyl just cannot be beat, and I don't know why, but that sound on vinyl. Just even on the rare occasions that I will pull out a record and play it on the 50-year-old plus record player with the needle that is at least 40 years old, because we treat that like it's a little sliver of gold. But
Yeah, because I don't know how you'd even replace it.
well, I mean, I suppose you can. I mean, for a while you couldn't. Now I think you can look now, but then it's the whole thing. Like I don't even remember how to replace a needle
Either.
or, but you can't beat that rich sound. Like I don't think it's ever been duplicated.
Yeah.
There's something about that, and I think that's why there's a lot of people who are into the vinyl because it just sounds. The
And
sound,
it's
yeah,
it's retro.
Yeah, and it's retro.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember buying cassettes and buying them for only like one song and then getting so frustrated trying to find exactly where that song started on the tape.
Yeah, me too. Okay. I don't need the rest of those. And we had counters. Some of those, they were like little counters that almost looked a little bit like the mileage thing on your car.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I remember that now.
I'd
Yeah,
forgotten all
because then
about that, but I know when you said it, I was like, I used to go to like exactly this spot to try to find where I wanted to listen to.
yeah, I forgotten all about that and how they had like the timestamps, like on the case,
Yep.
didn't they?
Which were never completely correct, but pretty close.
No. And I remember like with the records, especially like the older records, looking at the folder, and they would only have like the length of the songs listed. So you'd have to count, like, if I want to listen to this song, it's 5 songs in, and then holding up the record and counting the ridges.
Yeah. There was a science to all of it. Like, I know what I want to listen to. I don't want to listen to the other stuff.
That always drove my mom nuts because she's like, don't buy stuff just for one song.
But we all did it.
You know, well, yeah, but she didn't. And I think that's
I'm
why,
sure
that's why we had to listen to that, because we listened to every record. So with my mom, there never was like, oh, let's listen to this song again, or oh, let's skip this one. I'm sick of it. She was always like, no, don't touch the record player.
Did you also have to walk carefully? Like, we would have to be so careful because if you made too much seismic activity, right, from your movement, it would jump and it could scratch the vinyl. Right? The needle could jump and scratch. So like you could not be roughhousing or playing when the record was playing. You had to go downstairs if they were listening to the record because then you wouldn't disturb the record player. But yeah, like that was, like you couldn't create your own little earthquake or anything because you could ruin the record. And once you've scratched the record, it's not repairable, as I recall. So like,
no, you're done. You're done.
Yeah.
I remember my grandparents had, and I remember laying in front of the console that I have inherited. They had a book read along with a record.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I remember lying on the floor and it was like one was about going to the police station. One was about going to the fire department. And, and I still remember and turn the page. So you turn the page.
Yeah.
Turn the page.
That's too funny.
Yeah. But I had forgotten all about the movement.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if it was a record that was a collector's item or something, you'd need to be super careful. Other ones, like, okay, if you scratch it, we'll buy a new one. But for the most part, we didn't play a ton of them. A lot of the ones that we had were ones that my dad had growing up and wanted us to not mess with, which is understandable, right? And the 8 tracks disappeared at some point. Like he used to have a wood shop in our basement, right? He built things, constantly repaired things. And for a long time, that's what he had was an 8 track. Just had this whole box of 8 tracks he'd listen to while he was working. That disappeared. I don't know if that got sold at like a garage sale or something. I can't remember. And then it was mostly cassettes and radio.
Mhm.
At some point, the CDs came around, and we were all just super excited about the CDs because, like you could fit, I think, more songs on a CD, and you
Well,
couldn't
they were
destroy the tape, right? Like you could ruin
right.
a cassette
Well, and
tape.
the sound was so much better.
Yeah.
They they were pretty indestructible. You really had to work to damage a CD, and
Yeah.
they
You'd
were
have to
just
like take,
yeah.
take something sharp to scratch it, or you'd have to break it. So that was helpful, right? They were, like you said, they were far more sturdy. At some
Yeah.
point, they made those into Walkman too, right? Like you'd have a little CD
Yeah, you
Walkman.
had yep, you would.
And then did you ever have the thing for your car? Do you remember when we were first starting to get CDs? And of course, we were probably not getting new cars that had CD players because we were young and poor. Um, they started making these converters that look like a cassette tape that you would put
No.
into your cassette player that would be wired to your CD Walkman. And then you
My
could listen to your CD in your car,
we
running it through your
were
cassette tape.
we were late CD adopters, but I remember this makes me think of when I was in high school. My car did not have a cassette player. And so I remember driving around and I would have my little boom box on the
Yes,
seat next to me
I
playing
remember.
tape so I
Yeah,
could listen to music in the car because I didn't even have a cassette player in my car. So
I did. I don't know how come. I think I did.
wh- my
Maybe maybe not my
my
first car in 1992. I don't think I had one in that one.
my
I don't
first
remember.
car was a 1981 Mazda 626 is what it was.
My first car was in 1987 Pontiac Sunbird, so I would have most likely had a cassette player in it.
You would drive a Sunbird.
It was my aunt's car. I got it after she put 100,000 miles on it. So it was the cheapest option we could find when I was that age, and I could pay it off myself working at the nursing home. So I was not picky at that point.
Sunbird.
Hey, it was a car. It was a little red car, 2 doors, black
What they
interior.
look like. I know what they look like. Yeah.
They don't make them anymore.
Oh, yeah, there's a reason.
I know there's a reason. It was it was what I had. So I was just happy I had one.
Oh, man. A Sunbird. Huh.
Its air conditioner did not work, which was sucky because when I moved to Omaha to go to college, the heat in Omaha was actually worse than the heat in North Dakota where I grew up.
Mhm.
And so I really, 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 really wished I'd had one. Um, and then it died an ignominious death. And then I ended up with a 87 or 88 Maxima. I can't remember. It was it was I mean, it had almost 200,000 miles on it when I got it. And it was all from this elderly couple in the town near where I grew up, and they only drove it to church and to like grocery shop in their tiny little town, and they had it for by that point they'd had it for 13 or 14 years. And so they didn't go very far. They took pretty good care of it, and I needed one, and that's just the way it worked. So that one had a cassette player in it too. It did not have a CD player. I did not have a CD player in my car until I graduated from college. And then I got a used car. And
Oh,
within 2 weeks of getting it, somebody broke into the car and removed the CD player from my dash.
yeah, I want to say, I think the first car we got that had a CD player, we got it like in 2001. And it wasn't, I mean, it was a fairly new car. It was like a 98 or 99.
That's what mine was.
That
It was a
was
98
that
Honda. Yeah.
that was the car that was colloquially known, I can't say colloquially, there we go, known as
And
the car that almost caused a divorce.
yeah,
Yeah, because it was purchased when I was at work one day.
that seems ill-advised.
It was.
That's why, hence its colloquial name, right? Yeah, so like I had a 98 Honda Civic. It's what I got after I graduated from college in 2001. And it had been leased by somebody for 3 years, and they'd put an aftermarket CD player in it. So it had a CD player and it had a radio, right? AM, FM, everything in AM, FM radio. And I forgot to take the faceplate off because this was back when you had to like push the button and take the faceplate off. And it would make it so that people, if they stole it, they couldn't use it. And I wasn't used to having one, and I had forgotten to take it off one night after I got home from work. And when I left the next morning to go to school, because I was teaching that year, I saw this orange thing in my window, and I couldn't I was like, what in the world is that? And as I got closer to it, I realized that my passenger window was completely busted out, and they had rather neatly removed the CD player. And so when the cop came to write the report so I could file the insurance thing, he said, they took their time with this and didn't destroy your entire dash. So it will be easy to replace it when you want to. Like it's just that's it in the window, right? That's all they damaged. And I waited an entire year because I was a poor high school teacher who could not afford to replace it. And I knew when I replaced it, I also wanted an alarm on the car. So I had to save up for all that. But that was the first car I had that had a CD player in it. And now none of the cars have CD players in them. So, we went from CD to what? What came after CD? Was it just streaming or
then you just
MP3s or
start
what?
streaming. Yeah, MP3s, and then just
Like
streaming.
the iPods, right?
Yeah, Inga has a CD player, but Inga is also a 2004.
Yeah, see, Helga does not have a CD player, but she's a 2016.
Yeah. Inga, she and I are together for life. So,
Yeah, Helga will be with us until she dies. There's no question.
yeah. Well, yeah, Inga and I will be together until one of us dies. She's a Volvo. She's not going to go anywhere. She's like driving a tank. And
right. And the Pilot is the same. Like those Hondas will last for a long, long time. And so she's good for many, many, many more years.
And she's me and Charlie's transport.
Right.
Yeah. My T calls it the Chi-mobile. Because
that makes sense. That makes sense. So did you ever have an iPod? I never had an iPod.
I never did either.
I never had an iPod. I remember they were there. I remember there were MP3s. I remember I used to play a lot of music on my computer. I'm sure those were MP3s. Like you download a file, you could use things like Napster or BearShare or some of those sharing services back then. And I think from there it morphed into all digital all the time, right? Like now you've got Pandora and you've got Spotify and you've got YouTube, and everything is kind of released in that way. You buy the album digitally. I don't even know, like, do artists, this is how little music I buy. Can you go buy a CD of a current artist like Taylor Swift or somebody like that? Can you actually go buy a CD of them, or is it all digital? Like, I'm assuming it's all digital, right?
That's a good question, because I don't listen to a lot of new music because I'm now of the age
where it's just not doable.
Well, no, but I mean, it's just, yeah, listening to separate music is not doable.
I
Because
mean,
I'm
it's
like,
how
what
our
is that? What is that noise? What
yeah,
is
our
that?
parents and grandparents had the same feeling about this time in their lives. You when you had CDs, did you have the little cases and the towers?
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
those? I mean, like,
Yep. We
these were
had
pieces of the towers were pieces of furniture. Like, you
they
didn't
were,
right? Like, we had these big towering things. Sometimes you just put them on the wall as like a shelf, and other times they were
Mhm.
built into your TV stand or whatever. And it was primarily, here's where you put your CDs, and then you just grab the case, and when you listen to it and put it in, and I think we used to have like players that you could put anywhere from 4 to 8 different CDs in, and it would rotate the CDs. Do you remember?
yeah, we had one with 3 or 4.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that
all
you
right.
could, and then the little remote that
Yep.
went with it. Yeah. And then one
We've
day the
come through
machine died and
a heck of an evolution in how we consume music since we were kids listening to records and 8 tracks to this point as we are approaching our 5th decade of
well,
life.
yeah, because
Everything is now digital. It's all on my phone.
yeah. Well, that's just it. I mean, like if I want to listen to something, I pull it up on YouTube. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
kinda cool. I mean, and let's be real. Now, you can have so much more music and you don't have to have space for it. You don't have to worry about where
good.
you're storing it. Records, record players, they take space. Cassettes take space. CDs took space. That's why they made all that furniture for CDs, right? And now
One
everything just fits on your phone or your
one thing
laptop.
one thing I forgot that was very important for music consumption for people our generation, MTV and VH1.
Oh yeah.
Back when they played videos,
Yeah.
watched a lot of MTV and VH1 for new music.
I feel like we did not get VH1 where I grew up. But I
We didn't
remember we
either. I mean, I'm thinking like because my mom didn't allow us to watch MTV. And then we didn't have VH1. But I'm thinking like, when I started college, I watched a lot of MTV and VH1.
yes.
Yeah.
We had it I think we had it in our like cable package in the dorm. We could get VH1.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Like I remember like in my apartment we had VH1 because that was uh, just standard cable, which is a whole other conversation, yeah.
Right.
But I think that's one thing, um, because that was always like I would use it as kind of a screener then for if I did want to go out and get the CD,
Yeah, that's fair.
or if I just enjoyed listening to it and,
Well, and
on
I
television.
I used to listen to whatever the station was in Omaha that played all the new 98.5 or something, I can't remember. Um, back then, back in the
Mm.
late 90s, early 2000s, I would just, if I heard it on the radio plenty of times while I was driving around town, and then I'd be like, okay, well, I want to go find this. And
Mhm.
usually it was the thing where your mom would probably have told me I was nuts because I would be like, I'd go into some place and say, I need the album that has this song on it. And I
Oh,
always buy it for the one song.
no, no, no. My mom thought you were the best thing since sliced bread. You could do no wrong in my mother's eyes. So she would have thought that was genius. She would have been like, great idea, A. I would have never thought of it.
Mm. I was fond of C2, so it's all good.
It was like, friend, if she would have had your mother's number, she would have been like, do you want to swap children?
My mom might have said yes. Entirely possible.
There's times, right?
I'm
But
sure. I am
no,
sure. Yes. I think it's kind of
yeah.
cool though. Like we as a generation, I think, have seen just an amazing explosion of technology. And it doesn't just
Mhm.
come with the music, right? We mentioned nutrition before, phones, all kinds of things. Like, there's just massive changes in technology. And I think Generation Z can look at this and wonder, it would be really interesting if we could live long enough to see what kinds of changes or evolutions in technology Generation Z gets, or even Generation Alpha, right? What
Yeah.
they
What they
encounter, how much it changes. Cause like what happens next after streaming? Like
don't
you can't
know.
do much else with it except we don't know, right? So we'll have to find out. But the progression from records and 8 tracks to where we are now seems incredibly logical when you look back at it, but like nobody knew what was coming back then.
They didn't. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, like, I remember when we were part of the avant-garde. We were the ones that were embracing the new technology and mastering how to use all of these things. And I just happened to think of when I saw uh, Little T earlier this week, and she was showing me how to properly take a selfie.
Yeah.
And like, I've been doing selfies for probably 14 years now, but nobody ever like showed me, which explains why all my selfies look like crap. But again, is that a whole, she grew up with people doing selfies. So it's like also natural. She's like, oh, hold your phone like this way, and then you look this way. And I'm like, oh, I look fabulous.
Yeah.
Um, versus
Well,
the
I
ones
mean,
right.
we have to
So
remind people we didn't grow up with phones. Like these didn't.
I I think though, I mean, isn't that kind of one thing that you're noticing now too is like every day that passes, I'm not the one with the new tech or the new and going, oh, here's how you do this. Now I'm starting to be the one of like, this is what a record player looks like.
Yeah.
I had to be very careful stepping around them, which I
You
completely
could
forgot about.
damage the actual music if you're not careful, you could destroy the music source.
Don't hurt the music.
No stomping.
No stomping.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fun. It's a little fun trip down memory
Yeah,
lane.
it is.
Well, that seems like as good of a place as any to leave it, I guess. We've talked a nice bit about all of the fun music encounters we've had. So for those people listening, everybody, the 5 of you who enjoy our humor or whatever it was we were talking about at the beginning, throw some comments in. Give us some ideas of how you remember growing up with your own music options, right? Like how you consume music. What were your most frequent used sources, right? Were you listening to records all the time? Do you still listen to records? Yeah. So throw your experiences in the comments. Obviously, like and subscribe, share with your friends, you know? And as we always say, check back
You,
next week for something new to complain about. T, anything
you
else you
just,
want to add for this?
yeah, you missed the opportunity of saying a whole handful or a whole handful of you.
Our handful of viewers, listeners, our handful. We might even have 2 handfuls of listeners. I don't know. Probably not 4 handfuls yet, but we might have 2 handfuls of listeners. Fun part. Wait till we get to 3.
What is what
Any,
is one handful for dancing or what? I don't.
somebody will have to tell us. Put it in the comment. There. Tell us about your handfuls. Anyway, it's been fun. Anything
Oh,
else you want to add before we're
no,
going
I
to do
think
the
I'm
Midwestern
good.
goodbye here?
I know, right? Slowly walking out the door.
Right.
Whoa, I think I'm good. So, yeah.
That's it for the 4 Handful episode. Thank you all for listening once again. Throw your stuff in the comments, like, and subscribe. Hey, maybe let's try something new. Send the link to these episodes to a couple friends and see if we can grow our listening audience by some more handfuls. And until next time, this is A signing off. T is laughing too hard. She can't say anything. So you can catch T on the next one. See y'all later. Bye.